You've been doing everything right, haven't you? Working harder, learning more, trying to stay positive even when it feels fake. And yet, your reality doesn't match your effort. Your bank account doesn't reflect how much you give. Your opportunities don't reflect how much you know. Your results don't reflect how much you care. So you tell yourself, I just need more time, more discipline, a better plan. But deep down, there's a quieter question you almost never say out loud. If I'm doing so much, why does so little change? In this video, you're going to confront an answer that might be uncomfortable at first, but liberating once you see it. Napoleon Hill hinted at it in Think and Grow Rich. A subtle, silent mental habit that quietly sabotages your prosperity while you truly believe you're on the right path. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't look like self-sabotage. It looks like being realistic. It hides inside thoughts like, I'll start when things calm down. This isn't the right moment. I shouldn't ask for more. I should just be grateful. What if I'm not ready yet? On the surface, those thoughts sound humble, logical, even mature. But over years, they drain your ambition, delay your decisions, and shrink what you allow yourself to receive. As you watch, you'll begin to recognize this pattern in your own story. The opportunity you almost took, the raise you almost asked for, the idea you almost launched, the conversation you almost had. This isn't about blaming yourself for the past. It's about finally seeing what's been operating in the background of your mind, often for decades, so you can stop repeating it. If, as you're listening, a part of you is already saying, that's me, stay with this. You're not broken. You're just running a mental habit that no one ever taught you to see, much less interrupt. As we go deeper, I'll show you exactly how this habit shows up in your daily life and how to start turning it off. Notice what resonates with you. If something hits home, tap like so you remember this point later. Have you ever felt that your effort and your results just don't match? Tell me in the comments. Where do you feel most stuck right now? And if you're ready to finally let your mind work for your prosperity, not against it, consider subscribing. This is where that shift begins. You've been told your whole life that the secret is simple. Think positive, work hard, stay focused. And you do that. You read the books, watch the videos, repeat the affirmations. You tell yourself, my time will come. But deep down, there's a quieter question you don't say out loud. If I'm doing so much, why isn't my life changing that much? That's where Napoleon Hill's warning becomes uncomfortable. Because the real problem usually isn't your effort, your intelligence, or your intentions. It's a mental habit that feels so normal, you don't even recognize it as a problem. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up as, I'll start when things calm down. I need to be realistic. I should be grateful for what I already have. I'll do it when I feel more ready. It sounds responsible, mature, even spiritual. But this habit quietly teaches your mind one powerful message. Now is not the time. And every time you believe it, your life stays exactly where it is. You tell yourself you're being careful. You're waiting for the right moment. You're avoiding mistakes. But if you look honestly, how many years have passed while you were preparing? How many ideas have you buried under research, doubt, and overthinking? Hill warned that this pattern is one of the most dangerous enemies of success because it disguises itself as wisdom. It makes you feel smart while it keeps you stuck. Notice something. Your problem is not that you don't know enough. It's that you're not moving on what you already know. As you listen, pay attention to where this shows up in your life. Is it in your finances? Your career? A business idea? A conversation you've been postponing for months? Or years? If this is already hitting a nerve, that's a good sign. It means you're finally starting to see the pattern, instead of just feeling the frustration. Hit like if this is resonating so far. Where do you notice this I'll do it later voice the most in your life? Tell me in the comments. And if you're ready to go deeper and actually interrupt this cycle, make sure you subscribe. The next parts of this series will show you exactly how to dismantle this habit from the inside out. Think about how you speak to yourself when money and opportunity are on the table. You say you want more income, freedom, and security. You're tired of feeling stuck. But the moment a real opportunity appears, something subtle happens in your mind. It's not loud. It doesn't shout, "You can't." It whispers politely, "Now's not the right time. Let me get more prepared first. Once things calm down, I'll move." It feels reasonable, responsible, mature. But notice the pattern. Time passes, and you're in the same place. This is the habit Napoleon Hill warned about. The quiet surrender to delay, doubt, and overthinking, while you still believe you're just being careful. You don't call it fear. You call it being realistic. You don't call it self-sabotage. You call it waiting for the right moment. You don't call it procrastination. You call it needing more clarity. Meanwhile, years go by. You see someone else launch the idea you shelved. You watch a coworker ask for the raise you've been silently hoping for. You hear that a friend invested, learned, failed, learned again, and now they're ahead. And your mind quickly protects you. They had more contacts. They're naturally confident. They don't have the responsibilities I do. This is how the habit survives. By keeping you right, even when being right keeps you broke, stuck, or small. The real enemy here isn't your job, your past, or even the economy. It's that automatic inner lawyer that always argues for your limitations and wins. Start to notice it. The next time you pull back from a conversation, a decision, or a risk, pause and ask yourself, is this genuine wisdom or just a very sophisticated excuse? That single question can interrupt years of silent sabotage. If this is hitting a nerve, it's not by accident. You're starting to see a pattern that's been operating in the background for a long time. Have you already recognized a moment in your life where this quiet habit stole an opportunity from you? If you're ready to expose this pattern and learn how to dismantle it piece by piece, stay with me and consider subscribing so you don't slip back into the old automatic script. You've been told your whole life that the opposite of success is failure. But that's not what actually holds you back. The real opposite of success is delay. Not a dramatic failure. Not a big crash. Just that quiet, almost invisible habit of pushing things to later. Later when you're more prepared. Later when you have more time. Later when you feel more confident. Napoleon Hill warned about this in Think and Grow Rich. The habit of hesitation disguised as intelligence. And you've been rewarded for it. People probably told you, "You're so thoughtful, so careful, so realistic." But if you're honest, how many times has this realism cost you momentum? You see an opportunity. A course, a partnership, a side project, a conversation that could change everything. Your first instinct says, "This could be it." Then your second voice arrives. "Calm down. Think about it more. Don't rush. You're not ready yet." So you open another tab, watch another video, read another article. You're active, but you're not moving. And here's the trap. You feel productive. You're learning, researching, weighing pros and cons. It feels responsible, mature. But underneath, what's really happening is mental procrastination dressed up as wisdom. Hill called it one of the deadliest enemies of wealth. The habit of waiting for the perfect time that never actually comes. Look back for a moment. How many ideas did you have that someone else later executed? How many times did you see someone less prepared than you step into a role, start a business, or ask for more money, and get it while you were still getting ready? That's the habit at work. Notice something. I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm inviting you to see where your caution has turned into a cage. If this is resonating, it's a sign you're becoming aware of a pattern most people never even see. Hit like if you've ever talked yourself out of something you knew you wanted. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing you've been getting ready to do for far too long? If you want help breaking this pattern step by step, consider subscribing. The next parts of this series will show you exactly how to move from endless preparation to deliberate, confident action. Here's the uncomfortable part. This habit doesn't show up waving a red flag. It shows up sounding smart. It says things like, "I'll start when I'm more prepared. This isn't the right time. Let me think about it a little longer." On the surface, it looks like maturity, like responsibility. But underneath, it's the same quiet pattern. Postponing action, protecting comfort, and keeping you exactly where you are. Think about how this plays out in your life. You get an idea to offer your service for a higher price, and within seconds you start listing all the reasons it might not work. You feel the urge to reach out to a potential client, mentor, or partner, and your mind instantly gives you a dozen excuses. They're busy, I don't want to bother them, I'll do it next week. You want to invest in a course, a skill, or a tool that could move you forward, and you spend weeks researching, secretly hoping the decision will make itself. On paper, you're being careful. In reality, you're stuck in mental negotiation with your own potential. Napoleon Hill warned that this is how poverty of mind begins. Not with a big dramatic failure, but with small, reasonable delays that become a lifestyle. You don't say no to your growth. You just say later so many times that later quietly becomes never. Notice something. You're not lacking intelligence, effort, or desire. What you're lacking is a firm inner decision that says, I will no longer let my automatic thoughts run my future. Pause for a second and look at your own life. Where has, I'm just thinking it through, actually meant, I'm afraid to move? If this is hitting close to home, tap the like button. Not for me, but as a tiny commitment to yourself, I see this pattern. And tell me in the comments. In what area of your life do you postpone the most? Money, career, relationships, or your own well-being? If you're ready to stop letting this quiet habit choose your results for you, subscribe. In the next part, you'll learn how to interrupt this pattern in real time and start acting before your old excuses wake up. Notice what happens inside you whenever something good starts to get close. An opportunity shows up. Someone recommends your work. You get an idea that makes you feel quietly excited. And then, almost automatically, your mind reaches for the brakes. Not with obvious negativity. That would be easy to spot. It comes in dressed as prudence, responsibility, or being realistic. I should probably wait. It's not the right time. I need to be more prepared. What if I fail and look foolish? This is the habit Napoleon Hill warned about, your mind habitually talking you out of the very movement that would lead to growth. You call it thinking it through. You call it being careful. But if you look at your results, you'll see, most of the time it's not protection. It's paralysis. Pay attention to your pattern. You feel a nudge, you imagine a possibility, then you immediately imagine everything that could go wrong. Instead of asking, how could I make this work? You ask, why might this not work? And your brain, loyal to your question, gives you an endless list of reasons to stay exactly where you are. This doesn't happen once a year. It happens daily, in tiny moments. The message you don't send, the call you postpone, the course you save for later, the conversation about money you keep avoiding. Individually, they look small. Together, they build a life of delay. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You've simply trained your mind to be more loyal to your comfort than to your calling. What if that changed? What if, when the next opportunity appears, your first question becomes, what is one small, safe step I can take toward this today? That's where the shift begins. Not in giant risks, but in consistent, courageous micro-movements. Notice this in your own life. When something good approaches, do you move toward it or start creating distance? If this is resonating, tap like so this message reaches more people like you. And tell me in the comments. In what area of your life do you feel this habit blocking you the most right now? If you're ready to retrain your mind to support your prosperity instead of quietly sabotaging it, make sure you're subscribed. The next part will show you how to interrupt this pattern in real time. And this is where Napoleon Hill's warning becomes brutally practical. He said, the subconscious mind makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought impulses. In other words, it doesn't care whether your thoughts are moving you toward prosperity or away from it. It just obeys repetition. So if day after day you keep feeding it thoughts like, this probably won't work. I should wait until I'm more prepared. Who am I to think I can do this? People like me don't get those opportunities. Your subconscious doesn't argue. It simply organizes your emotions, your focus, and your behavior around those beliefs, quietly, efficiently, faithfully. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just well-trained. In the wrong direction. Think about how many times you've played it safe when you were actually just obeying this silent mental program. You rationalized, now's not the right time, when the truth was, I'm afraid of failing, or I'm afraid of being seen trying. That's the habit Hill was warning you about, a repeated pattern of self-dismissal disguised as wisdom. And here's what makes it dangerous. It sounds reasonable. It uses smart language. It borrows the voice of your parents, your old boss, your past disappointments. It sounds like it's protecting you when in reality it's protecting your limitations. Notice how this habit shows up for you. Do you over-research instead of deciding? Do you start strong, then drift the moment it gets uncomfortable? Do you talk yourself out of action the second progress becomes possible? The more honest you are here, the more power you get back. If any part of this is hitting close to home, pause for a second and acknowledge it. That recognition alone is a small act of rebellion against the old pattern. Have you ever felt that conflict, wanting more, but talking yourself out of it with very reasonable arguments? If you have, you're not alone, and you're not stuck. In the next part, you'll see how to start retraining this mental habit, so your mind stops blocking your prosperity and starts building it. If you want to follow this shift step by step, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. Notice what happens inside you when a new possibility appears. You get an idea, a course, a side project, a conversation you know you need to have. For a brief second, you feel that spark. This could change things. Then the habit shows up. It doesn't shout. It negotiates. Let's think about this a little more first. Maybe next month, when things are calmer, you should be grateful for what you already have. What if it doesn't work? You'll feel stupid. On the surface, this sounds responsible, right? Careful, mature. Underneath, it's the same old pattern. Delay, doubt, deflate. You tell yourself you're just being realistic, but what you're actually doing is rehearsing failure in advance. You try on disappointment in your mind before you even take the first step in real life. Napoleon Hill called this out long ago, the habit of letting fear dress itself up as logic. Look back at your past few years. How many decisions followed this script? The networking event you skipped because you were tired. The application you didn't submit because your resume wasn't ready. The business idea you buried under, I need to research more. Be honest. How many of those were truly wise decisions? And how many were this habit quietly pulling you back to the familiar? Here's the dangerous part. Over time, this pattern becomes your identity. You stop saying, I'm postponing this decision. You start saying, that's just not who I am. I'm not the kind of person who negotiates salary. I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. I'm not the kind of person who talks about money. And your results faithfully match that story. If this is hitting a nerve, pause and sit with it. Don't argue with it. Just notice it. Can you remember one specific opportunity you talked yourself out of that still bothers you today? If yes, hit like so this message reaches more people who need it. And tell me in the comments, in one sentence, what did you walk away from and why? In the next part, you'll see how to interrupt this pattern in real time and finally act before the habit talks you out of it. If you want to follow that shift step by step, subscribe and stay with me. And here is the most uncomfortable part. This invisible habit doesn't only stop you from starting big things. It quietly makes you abandon the things you already started. Think about it. How many times have you set a financial goal, felt excited for a week, then slowly faded? Not because you're lazy, but because the voice of reasonable delay came back. Let me just wait for the next paycheck. I'll restart this properly next month. I should do more research first. On paper, those thoughts sound mature. But in your life, they keep producing the same result. No consistent action, no consistent progress, no consistent money. Napoleon Hill warned that this is how poverty and limitation enter. Not with a dramatic decision, but through small daily surrenders of your will. Each time you say later to something that moves you forward, you're saying yes to staying where you are. And over time, that pattern becomes your identity. You start to see yourself as the person who almost started the business, almost changed careers, almost invested, almost asked for more. This is how the habit becomes dangerous. You begin to believe that your intentions are enough to define you, while your actions keep telling a different story. You don't break this by hating yourself or forcing massive, unsustainable effort. You break it by making the habit visible and then interrupting it in the smallest possible way. Instead of, "I'll do it later," you ask, "What is the 5-minute version I can do now?" Instead of waiting for the perfect plan, you say, "I will learn while I move." Instead of needing certainty, you practice courage in tiny doses. Notice how different your life would look if you simply refused to postpone one meaningful action per day. If this is hitting close to home, pause for a second and like this video so you remember to come back to it. Now, be honest with yourself. Where in your life are you currently saying later to something you know you should do? Tell me in the comments. And if you want help catching this habit in real time and replacing it with a pattern that serves your prosperity, make sure you're subscribed because in the next part we'll go even deeper into how to do that step by step. And here is the most dangerous part. When you finally start to notice this pattern, your mind will try to negotiate with it instead of ending it. You'll say things like, "Okay, I'll take more action, but later, when I'm more ready. I'll believe in myself, but only after I see some proof. I'll invest in my growth, but just a little, so I don't risk too much." That's still the same habit, just dressed in smarter language. Napoleon Hill warned that indecision and doubt are the breeding grounds of fear. And fear doesn't always shout. Most of the time, it whispers in very reasonable tones. Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. What if you fail and look stupid? What if you succeed and can't handle it? You've heard those lines before. Maybe you're hearing them right now. The shift begins when you stop arguing with those thoughts and simply stop obeying them. You don't need to erase fear to move forward. You don't need to feel 100% confident to start. You don't need everyone's approval to choose a bigger life. What you need is a new default response. Instead of, "I'll think about it," you practice, "I'll test it." Instead of someday, you say, "What's one concrete step I can take this week?" Instead of asking, "What could go wrong?" you add, "And what could go right if I actually follow through?" Notice how different your day becomes if you adopt just one rule. When it matters, I decide faster and act smaller. Not reckless. Not impulsive. Just quicker decisions, smaller first steps, and less room for mental sabotage. Pause for a second and be honest with yourself. Where in your life are you still negotiating with this habit? Career? Money? Health? Relationships? If this is landing for you, hit like so this message reaches more people who need it. And in the next part, you'll see how to turn this new awareness into a simple, repeatable practice so that progress stops being an accident and becomes your new standard. If you're ready to train your mind to serve your prosperity instead of suffocating it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what comes next. You've seen now how subtle this habit is. It hides inside your logic. It borrows the voice of your parents or past failures, and it tells you it's protecting you, while it quietly keeps you exactly where you are. So what do you do with this? First, you stop trying to argue with it and you start observing it. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "I'll do it later," or "Now's not the right time," or "Who am I to try that?" don't rush to push the thought away. Instead, pause and name it. There it is. That's the habit. That's not me. That's conditioning. This small separation is powerful. When you see the thought as a pattern and not your identity, you take back your power to choose. Next, you give your mind a new instruction. Not a vague affirmation, but a clear, simple directive. Something like, "Show me one small step I can take today. How can I move 1% closer instead of staying at 0%? What would I do right now if I wasn't afraid of looking foolish?" Then you act on the tiniest possible version of that answer. Send the email, make the call, write the first paragraph, save the first $10, post the first offer. You're not trying to transform your life in one dramatic leap. You're proving to your mind that you decide the direction now, not the old habit. Over time, this rewires your self-image. From someone who thinks about it to someone who moves. Your confidence stops coming from positive thinking and starts coming from evidence. Evidence that you can feel afraid, uncertain, or unprepared and still take aligned action. If this is resonating, gently tap that like button. It helps this message reach more people who feel stuck just like you. And now I want to ask you, where did you recognize this habit most strongly in your life? Money, career, relationships, or opportunities? Let me know in the comments. Naming it publicly is often the first real break in the pattern. If you're ready to keep exposing and replacing these invisible habits, subscribe. In the next part, we'll turn this awareness into a practical, step-by-step plan so your mind finally becomes your ally in prosperity, not your silent saboteur. So now you see it. The problem was never that you weren't enough, or that life secretly chose other people to win. The problem was that a quiet, automatic habit in your mind kept pulling the handbrake, while you were pressing the accelerator with everything you had. You've seen how it disguises itself, as caution when you're actually prepared, as humility when you're really afraid to be seen, as logic when, deep down, it's just fear dressing up as being realistic. From this point on, you can't say you don't know. You do know. The next time you catch yourself thinking, I'll start when things calm down, I just need one more course. Maybe this isn't for people like me. Pause. Ask yourself, is this my true wisdom talking, or is this the habit? Because now you can tell the difference. And here's the shift. You don't have to fight this habit with force. You outgrow it with decisions. One small, inconvenient, uncomfortable decision at a time. The message you finally send. The application you finally submit. The price you finally charge. The boundary you finally set. Every time you move despite the old thoughts, you send a new signal to your mind. We don't live there anymore. That's how prosperity starts. Not with a miracle, but with a pattern you refuse to repeat. If this video helped you see yourself more clearly, tap like so the platform knows this kind of content matters. And tell me in the comments, what's one decision you've been postponing that you're willing to move on this week? Put it into words. Declare it. That's your first act of power. If you want support interrupting this habit again and again, until thinking bigger feels natural instead of dangerous, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about finally stopping the version of you that keeps playing small, so the version that's been waiting underneath can finally take the lead.